Welcome everybody to our Path to Enlightenment class. We'll begin the session with a light offering for the mother of our dear Dharma friend and pillar of the Tibetan Buddhist Society, Paul Sokolich. Sox's mum, Joyce Brooks, passed away earlier this month, and Sox has requested in response to queries, please, no flowers, gifts or anything like that. However, the Tibetan Buddhist Society is sponsoring a number of light offerings, including today's, and Sox has also invited anybody who wishes to dedicate similarly. But now, for the moment, we reflect on this beautiful offering of light to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Reflecting, wishing and praying that it be the cause that Joyce Brooks has a very peaceful, easy time in the intermediate state, that she quickly takes a very high rebirth, a very loving family, has a life filled with joy, especially that she encounters and comes under the guidance of high lamas such as Loden Rinpoche, that she quickly realises all stages of the path, bringing joy, peace and enlightenment to limitless living beings. And also that this merit is the cause that all of Joyce's family have comfort and peace and strength at this time. And then we'll do the introductory prayers, and we'll do them the same way as we have in other weeks recently, just doing the Shakyamuni Buddha prayer and the Refuge and bodhichitta prayer in Tibetan and English, the others only in English. So beginning with the prayer of praise to Shakyamuni Buddha. Tumpa chundende de shin shepa Trachampa yangdapa tongpe sanje Repa dang shapsu tempa Dewa shepa jiten chempa Jebu rue kalo jua Lana me pa ladang minam chi tempa Sanje chundende Eljawa Shakya Dupala Shatsalo Jerutani Chiwo. Teacher, Bhagawan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly pure and complete Buddha, all-knowing, having poise, Sugata, apprehender of the world, navigator of beings to be subdued, incomparable, teacher of gods and humans, to the Buddha, the Bhagawan, the glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, we prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. Refuge in bodhichitta prayer. Sangye chodang sochi chognam la jang chobaduranye Chasuchi Dage Jin Suje Peso Namji Dola Penche Sangye Dropa worship. To the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I go for refuge until becoming enlightened. With the merit of my generosity and so on, may I achieve Buddhahood to benefit all beings. To the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I go for refuge until becoming enlightened. Through the merit of my generosity and so on, may I achieve Buddhahood to benefit all beings. And a short mandala offering. This ground anointed with perfume and strewn with flowers, Mount Meru, the 4 continents, adorned with sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered thus, may all beings enjoy such pure lands. The 7-limbed prayer. I prostrate my 3 doors with a mind of respect and offer all actually arranged and mentally emanated offerings. I reveal all the downfalls and negativities that I've ever collected and rejoice in the virtues of individuals and superiors. Please remain perfectly abiding until samsara is no longer seen. I request you to turn the vast and profound wheels of Dharma. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. A prayer of the lineage of gurus. Body born from 1,000,000 magnificent excellent virtues, speech fulfilling the hopes of infinite beings, a mind that sees all objective knowledge precisely, I bow my head to the chief among the Shakyas. Supreme sons of the incomparable teacher, carrying the load of all the conqueror's deeds by their emanations appearing in countless realms, I prostrate to Maitreya and Manjushri. The mother of conquerors is difficult to fathom. The precise thought is in commentaries written by Jambava's ornaments, Nagarjuna and the Sangha. I prostrate at the feet of those most renowned in the 3 realms. From these 2 great chariots come the excellent lineages of the paths of profound view and vast deeds, their essential points gathered thoroughly and without fault. Prostration to the lamp holding this treasury of instruction. Giving explanation through compassion, by seeing precisely and completely the essential points of all paths of Sutra and Tantra, holder of the conqueror's entire holy Dharma, prostration to the glorious Losang Dragpa. I, seeing all the infinite teachings, supreme way of crossing for those entering the journey's liberation, moved by compassion to deeds skilled in method, prostrations to the spiritual masters who make everything clear. The great treasury of excellence. The kind master is the basis of all qualities, and proper alliance is the root of the path. By seeing this excellence and through much striving, bestow blessings to be devoted with great respect. This gentle support of freedom obtained this one time is most difficult to achieve. Knowing its great value gives rise to a mind seizing its essence constantly, day and night. Bestow blessings to generate this continuum unceasingly. It is like a bubble in water, this constantly moving body and life. Thus remember the swift collapse of death. Beyond death, like body and shadow, white and black karmic results follow after. By gaining firm certainty in this, the mass of fault, subtle and very subtle, are abandoned, and the accomplishment of all virtuous collections completed. Bestow blessings to ever-retained conscientiousness. The qualities of samsara are unfit to be trusted. The door to all suffering. Do not be content with these enjoyments. By knowing its defects, bestow blessings to develop a great aspiration for the bliss of liberation. By that pure thought, great conscientiousness is drawn forth, and mindfulness and awareness of the individual liberation, the root of the teachings. Bestow blessings to make this the essential practice. Just as I myself have fallen into samsara's ocean, all living beings as mother are also like that. By seeing the responsibility for the liberation of beings, bestow blessings to be trained in supreme bodhichitta. However, by merely generating the mind, if not acquainted with the 3 aspects of ethics, enlightenment will not be attained. By seeing this excellence, bestow blessings to train with strong effort in the vows of conqueror sons. Pacifying distraction toward perverse objects, by way of proper analysis of the perfect meaning, bestow blessings to swiftly and continuously generate the path related to the union of calm abiding and special insight. Thus, becoming a vessel trained in the common paths, enter the Vajrayana, supreme evolution of all vehicles. Bestow blessings to engage the easy path itself, that sacred way of crossing for fortunate beings. The base of practice for the two aspects of attainment is when guarding the pure vows of commitment is found to be genuine and certain. Bestow blessings to protect them even at risk of life. Then, by understanding properly the important points, which are the essence of the two stages of the Tantra classes, bestow blessings to practice according to these holy teachings with continuous effort in the supreme four-session yoga. Like that, may the spiritual friend revealing the gentle path and the friends of proper practice stand firm. Bestow blessings to quickly pacify the masses of outer and inner hindrances. In all rebirths, may I never be parted from perfect gurus and the enjoyment of the glorious Dharma. By utterly completing all qualities, paths and grounds, may I quickly achieve the state of Vajradhara. So today I thought we would do a meditation that we've done previously in the last few weeks, but always useful to do meditation on the four opponent powers, which is a fundamental purification practice in Mahayana tradition. And as we did on the previous occasion, given that we're talking about refuge, we'll do this in conjunction with meditation on Shakyamuni Buddha. So beginning by setting our physical posture, making sure we're sitting comfortably, our back straight but comfortable, hands resting in the lap, right hand on the left palm, with the thumb tips touching. Mouth, jaw and tongue relaxed. Head slightly tilted forward. With our eyes half open, half closed. Shoulders level, our arms relaxed and extended out slightly from the body at the elbow. And having set the physical posture, we set the most beneficial mental motivation for this session. What would be the best possible result of this time that we spend in meditation? The best possible result is that it is a seed of our own enlightenment. And with that, benefit to limitless, inconceivable numbers of living beings. The thing that determines whether this result is possible or not is solely our motivation, nothing else. If we would like that to be the result, if we aspire for that to be the result, it can be a seed for that very result. So we can reflect like that. imagining that these moments in our mental continuum ripen, grow and flourish. Subduing all of our self-cherishing minds, nourishing our great love, nourishing our great compassion, deepening our wisdom, refining our skill, so that easily, effortlessly, naturally, we bring joy, benefit, support and protection to all our fellow living beings. So we can take some time to think like that. Then for a short time, subdue our mind further. We concentrate on the breath. Releasing all mental wandering, memories of the past, plans or speculation about the future. Allowing all those to subside. As our awareness settles and centres. As it rests on just one object. Gently observing the natural rise and fall of our breath. Visualize in the space in front of us, about the level of the forehead. From emptiness arises a precious throne, supported by 8 bodhisattva snow lions. In appearance, it is a precious throne. In nature, Shakyamuni Buddha's wisdom truth body. On top of the throne, from emptiness arises a white syllable palm, P-A-M. This transforms into a beautiful, pure white lotus flower, symbolizing the realization of renunciation. On top of the lotus flower arises the syllable R, A-H, which instantly transforms into a moon disk, sitting flat on a lotus, symbolizing the conventional mind of enlightenment, bodhichitta. The aspiration for the sake of others to attain complete, perfect enlightenment. On top of the moon disk, from emptiness arises a brilliant golden sun disk, which symbolizes the realization of perfect wisdom. On top of these three cushions of lotus, moon and sun, from emptiness arises Shakyamuni Buddha. If we have a guru, we can think that this is our guru appearing in the aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha. Or otherwise, we can reflect that this is the actual Shakyamuni Buddha manifesting before us. His body is radiant and golden coloured, with one face and two arms. That he has one face shows that Shakyamuni Buddha perceives the one nature of all phenomena, emptiness of inherent existence. His two arms symbolize the two truths, conventional truth and ultimate truth. His right hand symbolizes great method, while his left hand symbolizes great wisdom. His right hand rests on his right knee in the earth-touching mudra, showing that Shakyamuni Buddha has the power to stop all negativities, especially the suffering of the three lower realms. His left hand rests in his lap in the mudra of concentration. And it supports a bowl of nectar. The nectar that destroys all delusions and especially all disease. Shakyamuni Buddha's holy body is golden coloured and light-natured like a rainbow, brilliant, illuminating all of space. He is a monk wearing the 3 Dharma robes, symbolising his pure ethics. He is adorned with the 32 major signs, such as his hands and feet being marked with wheels, and 80 minor marks, such as copper-coloured nails. He sits in the lotus position, emanating countless rays of light in every direction. So stabilise on this visualisation for a time. And if we lose the visualisation, we can re-establish it from throne, lotus, moon, sun, and so forth. And holding the sense that Shakyamuni Buddha is actually appearing before you. Which is not merely imaginary, because the omniscient wisdom truth body of all Buddhas pervades all phenomena, including one's own mind. Still holding the visualization of Shakyamuni Buddha in front. We can visualize all living beings surrounding us. Any aspect of human beings. Recalling that just like us, each one of these numberless living beings only ever wishes for happiness, enjoyment, comfort, and so forth. But that despite this, like us, without wish, they experience the faults of psychic existence. Such as sickness, fear, disappointment, death. Recognizing that just like us, every living being, if they could, this instant, would put an end to all of their suffering. We request to Shakyamuni Buddha, you are the Buddha jewel, you are the Dharma jewel, you are the Sangha jewel, and you are our protector. From this moment until every living being has been freed from cyclic existence and attained enlightenment, we take refuge in you. Through your great compassion, please release all sentient beings from negativities of body, speech and mind. From the two obscurations and from lower rebirths. Please ripen the potential of all living beings so they quickly attain enlightenment. So this practice of taking refuge with bodhicitta motivation is the first of the four powers, the power of the object. Next, we can practice the power of regret. Recalling negative actions we have engaged in the past. actions that have caused harm to others, for example, arising from attachment, anger, ignorance, and so on. Also recognizing that negative actions based on self-cherishing will only bring us similar karmic results in future. We develop strong regret for those actions and any harm we may ever have caused other living beings. Or that we may cause in future. Then we practice the power of the opponent force. In this case, the practice of meditation on Shakyamuni Buddha. Mentally requesting Shakyamuni Buddha once again. You are Buddha jewel. You are Dharma jewel. You are Sangha jewel. And you are our protector. Through your great compassion, please purify myself and every living being without exception from negativities of body, speech and mind. At this, from Shakyamuni Buddha's heart, pure white light and nectar radiate, descend and dissolve into oneself and all the living beings surrounding us. Purifying all negative karmas of body, speech and mind. As the white light completely fills our body, we can feel that all of our negativities of body, speech and mind have been thoroughly purified. Then we can practice the power of commitment. We can make a commitment to avoid a particular type of negative action or actions in the future, either entirely or for a period that we can confidently maintain. For example, 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week. And visualize that Shakyamuni Buddha becomes smaller and smaller, condenses to a brilliant point of light, which comes to the crown of our head. And then dissolves into us. We can feel Shakyamuni Buddha's holy body and our own body are non-dual. That Shakyamuni Buddha's holy speech and our own speech are non-dual. That Shakyamuni Buddha's Vajra mind and our own mind are non-dual. And to conclude, we dedicate the merit of our meditation thinking, may this practice of meditation on Shakyamuni Buddha and the 4 opponent powers be the cause that all my self-cherishing minds are progressively and quickly subdued. That all my positive qualities, great love, great compassion, great wisdom, quickly develop. And in particular, may it be the cause that every living being without exception, wherever they abide, quickly, easily, effortlessly attains highest enlightenment, Buddhahood. And we release our attention and finish the meditation. So we've been going through the third major division of chapter 10, which is called the way of going for refuge. And we've talked about the fact that that has 4 parts. The first and largest of those 4 parts under the way of going for refuge is recognising the qualities of the refuge objects. And those are explained under the headings of the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, and of those, the explanation of the qualities of the Buddha is by far the longest, and we've been going through that over the last couple of weeks. And that in turn is explained in terms of the qualities of the Buddha's body, speech, mind and deeds. And we, last week, we wrapped up, or went close to wrapping up, on the explanation of the qualities of the Buddha's mind. So we went through the general explanation of the qualities of the Buddha's omniscient mind, an explanation of the 10 powers that only a Buddha possesses, and then the next section is an explanation of other qualities and attributes. So these include the 4 fearlessnesses, the 4 accurate individual perceivers, and the 18 unshared attributes. And as I said last week, we won't go through these in detail. So in this section, Geshe Loden has presented the essence of the qualities of the Buddha's mind, namely the fact that a Buddha knows all phenomena, past, present and future, simultaneously, and knows both their ultimate nature, their emptiness or inherent existence, as well as the diversity of their conventional nature, and also that the Buddha in particular has knowledge of the most subtle phenomenon, namely karma. And as a result of being able to directly perceive individual karmic cause and effect, is uniquely placed to benefit others, to know exactly which teaching, which action, which instruction is going to be of most benefit to any being at any time, because a Buddha is able to perceive directly the nexus between cause and effect. So these various presentations, such as the 10 powers, the 4 fearlessnesses and so forth, articulate various aspects of these qualities of the Buddha's mind. It's very, very useful to familiarise oneself with them, to study them. For example, some of them are explained quite briefly, so it's useful to go through them, to reflect on them, perhaps make one's own notes, and to use them in the course of analytical meditation. So, for example, if we liked, we could do a weekend retreat ourselves, or a one-day retreat, or half a day retreat just on the subject of refuge, and we could do some study and analytical meditation on one or more of these attributes of the Buddha's mind in order to familiarise ourselves to familiarise ourselves with them. And one of the things I've mentioned it a few times is that Geshe Loden emphasises that it's particularly useful to cultivate this type of recognition, because if we are going to rely on the three jewels, if we actually decide that we aspire to have Buddha, Dharma and Sangha guide our conduct, shape our future, then we need to have an expert, precise understanding of their attributes. Or as Geshe Loden says a little bit later in the section we'll come to, the first general instruction that he describes about taking refuge is take refuge repeatedly by remembering the characteristics of the three jewels and concentrating on their qualities. So one way we can follow that instruction is by doing this type of analysis. But we will go on to the next section, which is the qualities of the Buddha's deeds, and the explanation of this begins on page 310 of Path to Enlightenment. So the essence of this is that Geshe Loden explains that a Buddha's deeds that benefit others are effortless. A Buddha doesn't need to make any conscious effort, doesn't need to turn his or her will to benefit other living beings, that their beneficial influence activities to support others naturally follow from the force of the previous dedication, the bodhichitta motivation that has sustained them over countless eons of practice. So we might think that it's a bit like the power of the sun in our solar system. So the sun illuminates our whole solar system. On this planet, for the last 3 billion years or so, it's supported all life, absolutely every living thing on the surface of this planet. The sun, the nuclear fusion reaction within the sun began 5 billion years ago or so. And once that reaction was set off, all of that consequence of illuminating the solar system, supporting all life, naturally followed from that. The sun never needed to think, today I'm going to illuminate the solar system. Today I'm going to support living beings on planet Earth. Once that cause and effect had been put in place, then naturally that result followed. So the effect of the Buddha's virtue of naturally benefiting other living beings upon their attainment of enlightenment is similar to that. Geshe Loden gives the example, an historical example of the realm of the great god Indra. And it was said that Indra resided in a pure land that had a magnificent crystal base. And without any effort on Indra's part, Indra's beautiful and magnificent form was reflected in multiple ways by the jewel base of his realm. And in the same way, it is said that the Buddha's deeds naturally, like that, are magnificent and inspire others to attain that quality of enlightenment. Another example that Geshe Loden gives is another historical example, relates to a pure land known as the realm of the 33. And it's said that in that pure realm there is a great drum that plays the sound of Dharma teachings, and that all who hear it receive Dharma teachings that are suitable to their needs. This drum doesn't have a player, it just naturally makes the sound of Dharma. And so it's said that a Buddha doesn't need to make any preparation. A Buddha doesn't need to make any effort in contemplating what to teach or how to teach, that a Buddha's teachings naturally provide the support, the guidance that individual living beings need, and brings them happiness and joy. Likewise, Geshe gives another lovely example of the moon reflected in various lakes around the world. So there's the one moon, and its light just naturally reflects in numerous lakes or bodies of water all around the world. The moon doesn't have any intention of producing that appearance. It just naturally occurs. And in the same way, appearances of the Buddha, that is, the emanation bodies of the Buddha, naturally and effortlessly appear to living beings according to their needs, faith, and their karma. Geshe explains that the real cause of happiness, the way that Buddhas really bring happiness to other living beings, is ultimately by teaching or showing Dharma. And a Buddha may teach or show Dharma not only through speech, but also through their actions or their deeds. And Geshe says at the end of this section that we're able to directly perceive the forms of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas by progressively purifying our delusions and our negative thoughts. And when we've removed our obscurations, then the appearance of Buddhas easily appears before us because we have eliminated those obscurations. The next section is, and in contrast to the sections on the qualities of the Buddha, these two sections on the Dharma and the Sangha are very short. So the explanation of the qualities of the Dharma begins on page 311. And Geshe reminds us, and we know this from the definition of the Dharma jewel, that the Dharma jewel is both the path of cessation and the cessation of suffering. How is it that we achieve the cessation of suffering? We achieve the cessation of suffering by the path of cessation, and we realize the path of cessation by removing the obscurations, the obscurations to liberation that are the basis of our suffering. The obscurations to liberation being our karma and delusion, of which, as we see when we get to the medium scope teachings, delusion is the most fundamental, because delusion is the basis of karma. So therefore, the essence of Dharma is finding opponent practices to our various delusions. So, for example, Geshe explains, in the case of our hatred and our anger, the opponent practice to that we cultivate on the Dharma path is developing our mind of patience. If our mind is disturbed by agitation, the opponent to that is developing our concentration. And ultimately, of course, these are means to an end, namely they are means to the end of developing the wisdom that perceives the emptiness of self and phenomena, because that is the ultimate opponent to our ignorance of self-grasping, which in turn is the basis of self-cherishing, which in turn is the basis of all other negative minds and karma. So Geshe says, when we practice meditation, we gradually improve until we attain the path of insight and the path of cessation and the actual cessation of suffering. And he also reminds us that the Buddha jewel itself arises from the realization of the Dharma jewel. Next, Geshe explains the qualities of the Sangha. And again, we know from the definition in the previous sections that the Sangha jewel is a superior being, that is, a being who has attained the path of insight, that is, a being who directly, non-conceptually perceives emptiness of self and phenomena. So Geshe also makes the point here that in order to do that, a superior has to have mastery of concentration and calm abiding, because without that, it's not possible to generate the special insight that enables us to perceive the emptiness of self and phenomena. Geshe says that a superior, that is a representative of the Sangha jewel, is able to concentrate so deeply that if they concentrate on one of the four elements, for example, fire or water, then it's as if all of their aggregates become oneness with that element. So they don't actually transform into fire or water, but for example, in the case of meditating on fire, they experience and generate a feeling of heat due to the profundity of their concentration, and for that reason they have control over the four elements. The next section then, which begins on page 312, is recognising the differences. So far Geshe has now set out the qualities of the three jewels. Again, in order to develop a precise understanding of them, it's also useful to understand the differences, because at certain levels the differences between them can be quite subtle. So for example, if we're talking about the Sangha jewel, and in particular the conventional Sangha jewel versus the ultimate Sangha jewel, if you look at the definition of ultimate Sangha jewel, it's actually very similar to the definition of Dharma jewel. And that might be one reason, this is just my working theory, why in the case of Sangha, it's actually the conventional Sangha jewel rather than the ultimate Sangha jewel that is the actual Sangha jewel. But all this is to say is that this is subtle, and so understanding the qualities of the three jewels and the differences between them is very useful and advances our refuge. So here the differences between them are presented along 6 different dimensions. So for example, the three jewels have distinct characteristics. A Buddha has the characteristic of being enlightened, the Dharma of being the result of the Buddha's enlightenment, because the Buddha taught the path to others, having become enlightened. The Sangha has the characteristic of being the practitioners of Dharma. Again, quite useful when going through this to analyse for ourselves whether here we're talking about the ultimate Sangha, the ultimate Buddha jewel, Dharma jewel, Sangha jewel, or the conventional Buddha jewel, Dharma jewel, or Sangha jewel. Again, that's a useful exercise because it helps us to understand the differences between them. The function of the Buddha is to teach the Dharma. The function of the Dharma is to abandon all of our causes of suffering. And the function of the Sangha is, by the practice of Dharma, to help and inspire other practitioners to progress on the path. How do we regard the three jewels? We regard the Buddha as the object of offering and service, because for us, and again as explained earlier, the Buddha is the source of the Dharma. We regard the Dharma as that which we're seeking to realise, that is, that which we're trying to make real in our own life. In our own life, we're trying to improve our mind by generating the various realisations of the path and the ultimate end of those realisations, namely the cessation of suffering. We regard the Sangha jewel as true and reliable friends. supporting us in our own practice. How do we practice the three? Well, that follows, Geshe says, he doesn't give a long explanation, simply from what we practice them different, but we practice in relation to them similarly to the way that we regard them. How do we recollect them? We recollect each of them by remembering their distinct qualities of the type that we've covered over the previous weeks. The three jewels generate different types of merit. So going for refuge to the Buddha and making offerings to Buddha, it is said, generates merit in relation to one person. The merit that we generate from going refuge to Dharma relates to something that is not personal, and in the case of Sangha, it generates merit in relation to more than 4 persons, given the definition of the conventional Sangha jewel. So the third of these 4 main sections then is going for refuge with acceptance. This is on the bottom of page 313, and there's really no commentary here. Geshe simply says that when we go for refuge, we need to accept the 3 jewels as the ultimate refuge. That is, we accept the Buddha as the ideal teacher for refuge, we accept the Dharma as the actual refuge, and we accept the Sangha as the ideal friend for realising the refuge. Excuse me. And as we see in the next section, this doesn't imply in any way sectarianism. So the next section is abandoning going for ultimate refuge in others, and this is on the top of page 314. And Geshe leads into this by saying, having taken refuge in the 3 jewels, you should place wholehearted faith in them and rely on them solely as the ultimate source of refuge. We shouldn't rely on ordinary beings as the ultimate source of refuge. Why? Because any being that isn't free from psychic existence themselves cannot be totally reliable. And that's explained in the example from Path to Enlightenment that we talked about before, that if one person is in quicksand, they can't rescue another person from the quicksand. Only a person on firm ground is able to rescue us from quicksand. So we cannot place so we cannot go for ultimate refuge for a being that is not a superior, that has not themselves extinguished psychic existence. We should not take the systems of other teachers as an ultimate refuge, because even the kindest, most skillful, most intelligent teacher from another tradition will teach of a truly existent self, or their teachings will assume the existence of a truly existent self. Again, this is not sectarianism. The Buddhist point of view is that the only way that we can ultimately remove our problem is to eliminate our delusions and negative minds. The only way that we can remove our delusions and negative minds is to eliminate their root cause, the thing that underlies all of them, the mind of selfishness, the mind of self-cherishing. If we analyse, this is the mindset that underlies our anger, our irritation, our pride, our clinging, and so forth. So the only way we get rid of the minds that bring problems to ourselves and others is by eliminating the mind of self-cherishing. The only way, from a Buddhist perspective, that we can eliminate the mind of self-cherishing is by eliminating its root cause, the mind of self-grasping. And the only way we're able to do that is by perceiving its ultimate nature, by perceiving the emptiness of the inherent existence of self and others. So if we're taking refuge in the Buddhist path, then in order to achieve the fruit of the Buddhist path, we need to actually practice the basis of the Buddhist path. So this doesn't matter. So it's quite important to note that Geshe is talking here about abandoning, going for ultimate refuge in others. This doesn't imply that teachers or that other traditions are inferior, that they don't have wonderful qualities, that one cannot rely or benefit on them in a limited or conditional way, but that if we are practicing as Buddhists, if we've chosen to take that path, well then the only way we achieve the fruit of that path is by taking ultimate refuge in teachers in particular who teach the wisdom of emptiness of self and phenomena. Again, it's important to, this is an important point, so it's not misunderstood, but it's well exemplified by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So a lot of us, I'm sure, have heard him say on many occasions that if one is practicing in another tradition, that they absolutely, that any idea that somebody should give up their current tradition and start practicing Buddhism, from His Holiness' point of view, people should be very, very careful about any decision like that, because one's religious tradition can be part of one's culture, be part of one's history, and moving to embrace a different tradition can actually be quite difficult and quite disruptive. And further, and more importantly, that it's not necessary, that all of the great traditions in the world teach the practice of great love, of great compassion, of ethics, and so forth. And so, bearing in mind that this, as His Holiness and as Geshe often said, is the main issue, looking after others, caring for others, that there's certainly no implication that any one path or tradition is favoured. I recall His Holiness also relating that on one occasion, somebody who was a very strong Christian spoke to him, asked him for an explanation about emptiness, and he said, joking to, he sort of said, "Oh, no, you don't need to know about emptiness. This is a Buddhist secret. This is not for you." But yeah, he was joking, of course. But if we choose to take refuge, and bear in mind this is our choice based on a confidence-based belief, which is the we talked about in the first couple of weeks, the confidence-based belief that Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha can produce the result of avoidance of the lower realms, of negation of psychic existence, or of enlightenment. If we have that confidence-based belief, then from a Buddhist perspective, the way of achieving that result is to practice the wisdom that perceives the emptiness of self and phenomena. And Geshe says that right in the final paragraph of this section, not accepting other teachers or systems as an ultimate refuge does not imply a sectarian approach, as we still rejoice in whatever benefit and good actions others gain as a result of their beliefs. It also does not suggest that we should not accept help, guidance, or advice from others, rather that we do not look to them as our final or ultimate refuge. So that concludes the third main division in this chapter, and we'll make a start on the fourth, namely having taken refuge, the stages of training. So if we actually take refuge, we generate the realization of refuge, then what do we do next? This is explained under two headings. Firstly, the commitments of taking refuge, and then second, the advantages of taking refuge. The commitments of taking refuge begins on page 314. There are two explanations of these commitments. The first is from a Sangha's compendium, and there's a listing here of 8 qualities or 8 commitments that we take according to the tradition of a Sangha. Again, Geshe Loden doesn't give a lot of commentary about these. It's useful for us to read these and reflect on them ourselves. We can write out our own thoughts about them. That's a good way of study, and we can do analytical meditation on them. Secondly, there's an explanation of the benefits according to the oral training, and Geshe Loden has a little bit more to say about these, and they're explained in 2 ways. Firstly, the type of negative things we abandon as a commitment of taking refuge, and secondly, the type of positive conduct we adopt as a commitment of taking refuge. So for the first, when we have taken refuge in the Buddha, that implies that we should avoid seeking ultimate refuge in other teachers. So that links to the comment to the discussion we've just had. When we take refuge in Dharma, that implies that we must avoid harming or killing any living being, even the tiniest. Why? Because the essence of the practice of Dharma is to benefit other living beings. The essence of the practice of Dharma is to accumulate positive karma and to eliminate negative karma. The heaviest, most destructive negative karmas arise from killing others, and they also cause others the most suffering and anguish. When we have taken refuge in the Sangha, that means that we should avoid company that would be a negative influence on us, such as teachers or associates who would mislead us into action that was harmful to others. On the other hand, in terms of commitments of practices we should adopt when we take refuge, if we take refuge in the Buddha, then we should regard all Buddha statues and images as if they were the actual Buddha jewel, regardless of their quality. So if we imagine that we were to encounter the actual Buddha, and we were to do that based on having taken, with a confidence-based belief, complete refuge in the Buddha, we had complete trust and faith, and the Buddha were to appear before us, how would we feel? We should try as much as possible to cultivate that same attitude in the presence of an image of the Buddha. And of course, this shouldn't be understood in some sort of unsophisticated way. This is about training our mind, to recognise the things that are of transcendent and ultimate benefit to ourselves and others, the things that will break our pattern of being stuck in negative minds and habits of cyclic existence. The Buddha represents our way out of cyclic existence. So by regarding an image of the Buddha as a holy object, we're constantly reminding ourselves, we're mindful that there is a way out, and that the Buddha has shown us the way out. Likewise, we should, in the case of Dharma, have respect not only for all Dharma texts, so we don't leave them sitting on the ground or step over them or leave them in unclean places. We should have respect for texts, but it says that even for every letter contained in a Dharma text, we should regard any Dharma text as if it were actually directly the Buddha's speech. When we take refuge in the Sangha according to the oral tradition, we should also respect ordained persons, or even, it said, even a small patch of a monk's or nun's robe. We should regard any ordained person that is conventional Sangha as if they were the actual Sangha jewel. Then Geshe concludes this section of the commitments of refuge with another 6 general instructions, and he doesn't actually explain the origin of these. And the first of these is the one that I quoted before. That's the first general instruction. If we want to take refuge, then one priority thing to do is to take refuge repeatedly by remembering the characteristics of the 3 jewels and concentrating on their qualities. Again, wisdom is listening, thinking, and meditation. So Geshe says, for example, we can think about the 4 bodies of the Buddha, the holy body, speech, and mind of the Buddha, and the various qualities, as explained in this chapter. The second instruction is that we make offerings to the 3 jewels while remembering their kindness. So this can include material offerings or, as is explained later, the best offering, actually, the most meaningful offering, is our sincere practice. Thirdly, the third instruction is that we establish other beings in the refuge with a compassionate motivation and by using skillful methods. So this is largely self-explanatory. Of course, what this doesn't mean is proselytizing or converting people, etc. What it does mean is that if there are other practitioners, then as much as possible we should support them, just as we would like to be supported ourselves in our practice of Dharma. In whatever actions we perform, for whatever purpose, we can always seek guidance and help from the 3 jewels, make offerings and requests to the 3 jewels, and then proceed with confidence. Having done so, do not rely ultimately on worldly means, such as the advice and methods of ordinary people. The 5th instruction is to take refuge at least 3 times during the day and 3 times at night, while recollecting the qualities of the 3 jewels. So we can do this in conjunction with morning and evening meditation, for example. And the final instruction, so guard oneself, never abandon the 3 jewels for the sake of a joke, or not even for the sake of your life. And again, this really follows from the very fact of having taken refuge in the first place. So if we actually have a confidence, so we actually aspire to achieve the objectives of Buddha's practice, we have confidence based on analysis and checking that the 3 jewels can help us to realise those objectives, then obviously if we abandon them, it's simply not going to work. It's as simple as that. Okay, well we're running out of time, so that's where we'll leave off for today. Next week, which will be our last class, we'll go through the final section of the advantages of taking refuge. We'll do, we won't go into depth for the next chapter on karma. We'll do a little bit of a review of the path to enlightenment, and I'll see if I can throw in an extra special meditation. So we'll do the dedication prayers. The final prayer of the graduated path, just in English. By the 2 collections, vast as space, amassed with effort for a long time, may I become a chief of conquerors, a guide for all beings whose mind's eye is blinded by ignorance. Also in all lives will not yet come to that, may Manjushri favour me with his compassion. Finding the supreme path, complete with all stages of the teachings, may I please the conquerors by practising well. By my precise understanding of the essential points of the path, with skillful means drawn along by strong compassion, and by dispelling the mental darkness of beings, may I uphold the conqueror's teaching for a long time. Where the supreme precious teaching has not spread, also where it has spread but become degenerate, with a mind deeply moved by great compassion, may I make clear this treasure of benefit and bliss. The stages of the path, excellently established by the marvellous deeds of the conquerors and their sons, give glory to the minds of those aspiring for liberation. May the conquerors' deeds be long preserved. May all humans and non-humans who remove the obstructions and establish conditions favourable to cultivating the excellent path never be parted for all of their lifetimes from the purest of paths which the Buddhas have praised. When someone makes effort to practice properly the 10 points of conduct of the Supreme Vehicle, may he always be assisted by the mighty protectors, and may oceans of good fortune spread out, reaching all. And we will do the general dedication prayers in Tibetan and English. Gewadi Chebokun Sonam Yeshe Tsog Zog Shem Sonam Yeshe Le Jong Le Damba Konye Toba Sho. By this virtue, may all beings complete the collections of wisdom and merit, and attain the 2 holy bodies arisen from wisdom and merit. Jiangju Sam Chö Bo Che Ma Che Panam Che Jo Che Che Pa Nyamba Me Pa Ye Gong Ne Gong Do Pel Ba Sho. May the precious superior mind of enlightenment be generated in those who have not yet generated it, and not decrease in those who have developed it, but increase continuously. Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful week. See you next week. Special thanks again to Manikam. See you.